These are his words, not mine. Paul is a workaholic in recovery with a passion for designing comfortable homes that use very little energy to heat and cool. Now, Paul has always had a great desire to create beautiful and practical things. And you might not pick it up, but he used to be a bit more in the industrial and product space. And then he was just like, why don't I just do architecture? But he currently is a fantastic designer. He is the director and co-founder of TS4 Living, a long-term supporter of the ASBN. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And he is going to be talking all about renovating for efficiency. So if you could please join me in welcoming Mustached Paul.
Thank you, Ken. That was very sweet of you. I'm not quite sure how to respond. Bar the fact I actually have, I think, another 6 more minutes on top of my 15 minutes now, don't I? No? I've got notes here. I did bring notes, but I probably won't even read them because I know what Ken's like with his draconian measures of pulling you off of stage. So I shall carry on quickly if I can figure out how to fly this. My name is, as Ken says, Paul Hendy. I've been running TS4 now for some time, 14 years, I think. We like the space we're in. We enjoy what we do, and we enjoy our clients as well. Most of them are great fun. Today I'm talking about renovating for efficiency. And basically, a lot of us, including myself, have older homes. We can't all afford to go off and buy a brand new home like a brand new car. We run things that are older. What can we do to an older house to actually make it more efficient? Well, the little sketch down there is actually a picture of my own home. It faces the wrong way. The garden's in the south. It's not particularly energy efficient when we bought it. It had a star rating of 0.9, which wasn't very good, obviously, with those who understand star ratings. It's now got a star rating of 8.2, which is a little bit better. And there's also northern light that comes into the living accommodation. So I think what I'm trying to say is here, all of us, if we want to, if we have the means and we can afford to, and we have the time and the desire, can actually live a lot more comfortably. And this is picking up on several of the things of the last two speakers. You'll see there's an overlap here. What am I going to talk about? Okay, so insulation, which we've sort of semi-covered as well. I'll actually show you a couple of pictures. Hopefully most of you know what it looks like. But we'll just, I'll show a couple of pictures so you can have a look. Shading, really important. I tend to go for the vertical blinds sometimes, a little bit easier, but we tend to automate things as well. So you can look at automation to make your home easier to live in. Glazing is really important. It is a big hole in your wall, basically. Typically 6-8 times as less efficient as your wall, which is a lot. Passive cooling, ventilation of some sort. Again, in an urban area as we are now, we tend to find that we force ventilation as opposed to looking for natural ventilation. Mainly because we don't tend to be in the right places with the right breezes. So, big picture. Now I'm just going to give you a bit of a shock here because this is what we've found. So I can only base it on information that I've found myself. A new build. Now the stars could be anything you want to. They might be $100,000, they might be $200,000. It's just for a comparison. Okay? And you're going to get maybe, if you're lucky, an 8-star building. Mostly we're building 6-star at the moment. Some would argue less than that. Renovation. You should be able to get a 7-star building. If you look at the house, if you do a blow door test, if you do a thermal imaging, which we do as well, I'll show you those images as well, then you can get a very well-performing, good, sound, solid house that's warm in the winter, cool in the summer. Now, it's possible to achieve carbon neutrality. Every house that we've done, basically almost from right at the very beginning, generates more power than it does use. Okay? And it does depend on the lifestyle. So going back to something you were saying, John, it's how you use your house as well. That I can't influence. I can influence the building people are in, but not how they use them. But it's interesting because a lot of people do come back and say, how should we do this, Paul? And they do change their lifestyles. Embodied energy. With an older house, you've written off embodied energy. It's gone. There's no need to worry about it. You build a new house, you have a lot of energy that goes into that new house. Okay? Which makes sort of carbon neutrality or getting to zero carbon actually very difficult. That's just my comment about it's your lifestyle as well. That's how you affect or can affect your energy usage. I'm checking my watch to make sure, although Ken's on his phone texting his mother. That's all right. Now, insulation. Ceiling voids. That is the easiest one-time hit to actually sort of reduce energy loss. And these are figures that have come from SA government. All my figures that I quote are not figures I pluck out of the air. Around 35% goes through your ceiling. Okay? Underfloor. A lot of people, I should think, that are here, if you're living in an older house, you won't have a concrete floor. You'll have some form of timber suspended floor. And from that point of view, you can insulate it. If you can find somebody to get under it, you can do something about it. In doing that, you've also got drafts as well. You can stop drafts going through there. Again, vitally important, because it's all well and good insulating something, but if what you've insulated, the air can go out or back in or whatever it's happening. Yeah. My normal analogy is a thermos flask. We all know what a thermos flask is. We put some hot water in there or some cold water, put the lid on, it's great. Take the lid off and see what happens. It's the same thing with a house. Unless it's sealed well, it's not going to perform anywhere near as well as it should do. Under the roof. If you've got an old tiled roof that's due for replacement, you're putting tin on. Replace under the roof straight away, because that takes off that initial thermal load that's going into the roof space. So it means the insulation that's actually on the ceiling works a little less. Okay, now those are the savings on it, which if you can see there, your walls a little bit harder, because when you have walls, it's going to depend on what you've got. Okay, but you can do something with a solid double brick. It's harder with a brick veneer, frankly, but you can do something about it. And that's a little thermal imaging image on there, which shows the typical modern house with a 90mm stud. You think it's well insulated. Yeah, that's all the dark areas there are actually, it's a thermal transfer basically. You can see what's happening there. Now, let's go through to air infiltration. Passive house, little small one. I've got a little beam on here. I need to walk away and point to things. That's a passive house. If we're all familiar with passive houses, that one there. That's a very, very well sealed house, incredibly well sealed. Okay, to the point where if you shut a door, sort of one opens the other side of the house. That's well sealed almost. We tend to build about 3.5, which is about the level you need for natural ventilation, around there. Okay, typical modern Australian house is 15. 25 would be an older home easily. Now this is the air change rates, the amount of air that goes through a building. Okay, and we do it at 50 pascals, which is it's a pressured sort of vacuum and a pressure that goes into the house on a cycle, and that's how we can tell whether your house leaks. And as Ben said, that's a blower door test basically, and that's what you can see on the right hand side there. Very important that when you start to look at renovation, you also consider how you're going to seal your house. Now, whether that's doing simple things like pulling up the carpet and actually sealing the gap between the skirting board and the floor and then putting the carpet back, it might be as simple as that. It might be looking at some of the way the cabinetry fits, and there might be holes actually behind the cabinetry. It could be the hole that goes up through from your extraction fan in your kitchen that goes up through a ceiling, and there's a big hole around it, which is not unusual in a modern home. Okay, there are lots of places to start to look. But a blower door test can help you define and find some of those areas you can improve on. We tend to use a German product, but there are many systems out there we can use. There's an Australian brand as well that you can use. You can go to Bunnings and buy a lot of these compression seals or brush seals that you can put in yourself. I'll pick up on the sliding sash window bit. This is actually my window. My windows have been fully sealed, but they're fully opening. They're an old sliding sash window in a renovated home, and they've got a brush part inserted in there. Yeah, and the beading that's gone on afterwards has just gone on with a bit more gap. And they work really well. Drapes and blinds, we all know those. If you're going to fit drapes and blinds, and you want to try to reduce the thermal transfer on the glazing, fit them to the ceiling. Yeah, or put some form of valance around the side of it to stop the air sort of tumbling around. Okay? That's the modern equivalent of putting the big old valance, which you would have seen in years gone by. Granny would have had one, don't tend to do it anymore. That's a modern equivalent. Another one is to turn around and use a pleated blind. Yeah? Again, buy those very easily. They're pocketed. Whenever you have air pockets, that's what helps to reduce the transfer of thermal energy. Shading. There's a few types of shading there. We tend to use a lot of flexible shading, which means you can bring it out and have full shade in the summer, and bring it back and have full solar penetration into your house in the winter. You can control that. Okay? And that's what we tend to do, but there's lots of fixed shading you can use, and vines, and as being said, trees as well, great, yeah, that you can control. If they're council trees and casting a big shadow over your PV, it's a little bit harder to do anything with that, unfortunately, but if they're on your property, then plant green. Green absorbs solar energy, it's fantastic. Okay, I'll just whiz through these very quickly because I'm very aware of the time. What else have we got on here? Okay, so like I said, solar adjustable definitely helps when you're trying to maintain a more consistent temperature in your house. Okay, the last thing you want, now interesting, John, we tend to shade up until the 14th of March is when we tend to go for, because I've always found now, having been here for getting on for 20 years, that March tends to be very hot, can be very hot. So that's when we're stopping sunlight coming into houses, okay? But when it's flexible, you can move it as you want to. Simple as that. Okay? And we always shade externally as well. We seldom shade internally, because once the sunlight gets into the house, it's going to heat an element of the house up, whether it be a curtain or whether it be hitting the floor inadvertently. Yeah? So we tend to put vertical shading if it's on an east and a west, more than likely. We can build houses where there are no shading aspects whatsoever to a house and still pass 8-star very easily and make it very comfortable. And the gentleman concerned was very pleased because he exported 9 times more energy than he used in the summer a little while ago. And he hasn't got 40 kilowatts on the roof either. Okay? And that's using glass. Yeah, so if you're going to replace your windows, then look at the types of glass that are available. So talk to somebody who knows these things. And it might not be a glazer. Okay, it may be a consultant of some sort that may have a better idea. Energy. Right, let's have a look here. I'm running out of energy, I must admit. So, if you're going to turn around and actually start to replace appliances and the likes, look for what you can do. Oh, it's okay. Look at what you can do with appliances. Go for low energy appliances. Excuse me. There are a number out there now which are actually very impressive, and they are using significantly less. Fridges, especially fridge freezers. You know, you can really drop your energy consumption by getting a newer fridge freezer. Don't go and buy a new one if yours is 2 years old. Wait until it's you know, gone through its life cycle. Lighting, we've touched on lighting. Choose lighting which is very well sealed. If you're going to put downlighters in, and you can do on a low seal, in a low air changed or infiltrated, air infiltrated house, as you've got all the way through here, you can actually do those and they can seal it really well against the ceiling and actually not allow air transfer. Make sure you get the right ones. I'll just go on very quickly. We're using a lot of automation in houses now because people have busy lives. So whilst I admire, John, your comment about flying your house, and we do exactly the same thing, some of our clients go, we work from, get up in the morning, leave at 7, get back at 7. We haven't got time to do that. So we're using automation to help the house work more effectively. Okay, now there's just the different options here. There are Bluetooth, there are wireless. The options are endless. And again, talk to somebody who can help you for that, from that point of view. Don't do what I do, which is go for the complicated stuff. So what I would say is that my house is a test bed, so that all bits and items come and start and go in there, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. The ones that work we use for clients. Other ones we don't tend to. Passive cooling, natural ventilation. Okay, we tend to force with fans. You can get them very easily these days, where you can literally blow air through the house. Sometimes you can filter it, depending on what you want. You don't have to seal the house up completely. And that's free as well. It's just like solar energy coming in. It's a free resource that's there. And I'll finish on that slide there. That's what we should all be living in. I do the same thing. My daughter shouts down, "Hey Dad, what's the temperature outside?" She has to actually ask because we don't know. And it was only about 5 years ago, before we renovated a double-fronted cottage, when it was 0.9 star, that I'd wake up in the morning and it was incredibly cold. And in the summer, it would be incredibly hot. It was just a horrible place to be in. And if you've come from the Northern Hemisphere, you'll find that most of us will turn around and say Australia is the coldest place in the world to live. And it is. Because our houses are not designed for purpose. They're not fit for purpose. Yeah? But with a bit of careful consideration, talk to the right people, you can make your house probably better than most modern houses coming off the assembly line. Thank you.